From Jump B, we deliver out to our left. This is a middle reverse knife hand block. Here, in L stance. So first of all, when you're coming out, make sure you're dropping yourself down onto your back leg. Here. Front hand, once again, because our foot is facing 15 degrees inwards, is also facing 15 degrees inwards. So you can see my foot just off the angle, and my hand will be too, my elbow naturally held by my side this way. Remember, because we're using reverse knife hand, we need to pull our thumb back. We don't want to be striking with the thumb. So it's pulled back, and it should be flush along here, and you're using a square section of your hand around here. Fingertips to the top of the shoulder. From our L stance, we have our first example of what is called a side front kick. Now, what a side front kick means is a front kick, but we're extending the hips forward. So we have more range with a side front kick than with a standard front kick. Practically, the only real difference is where this standing foot is facing. So because we're moving from L stance and into this kick, we are here, and we can leave our rear foot facing at 90 degrees. Whereas if we were doing a front kick, we'd rotate it this way. When you're doing a side front kick, make sure to push your hip forwards, try and get your hips facing at 45 degrees, use that extra range, push your toes out. From there, we're stepping down in front, and we're able to line ourselves up, put ourselves in a preparatory position here. So we're 15 degrees further over the angle that we would normally be, and we're doing an upwards palm block in rear foot stance. So it's here, this way through. Remember, rear foot stance, you want the toe facing off 25 degrees in the center of your foot, and it is one shoulder width from the outside of this foot to the outside of this foot. Here, upwards palm block. This time you must make sure the thumb is pulled right back. Don't get those two middled up, because again, if your thumb is on top of your hand this way, then it'll be the only thing taking the brunt of this block. Because the front foot is facing 25 degrees in, guess what? Our hand is facing 25 degrees in as well. If our hand is facing front on, you'll see I have the width of 4 fingers to block with, but because it's facing 25 degrees, I have the entire width of my palm. So from this edge to this edge here, that's quite a bit further than our 4 fingers, and it's used to block generally something coming off this angle. So let's have a look at it one more time. We're coming from the reverse knife hand block, side front kick, step, preparatory movement, circle up. Make sure you're not pulling behind, make sure you're not stretching your shoulders over. The circle is small, the impact of the block comes up, and then it settles to just 10 degrees above parallel. So if this is parallel with the floor, we're just 10 degrees up from there. Nice and easy. One more time. Side front kick, preparatory movement, circular block, rear foot stance. Later on in Joong-Gun, we have an upper elbow strike, similar to this one in Joong-Gun, but this time it is going upwards. However, much like the one from Joong-Gun, it is once again on the reverse side. So we're here, we're in L stance, knife hand guarding block. The important thing to remember here is always stances. We must think about stances first, and we're moving from L stance to walking stance. Now, sometimes if your move is not requiring speed, you can shift your weight back. You come to a neutral position here, for just straight on with your feet. You can lift and you can deliver, but in this pattern, we're looking to execute nice and quickly. So it's this movement. We have a little J shape, kind of, with our front foot. Right, I'll try and get it in frame. It's shifting back, and then there's this rotation on the back foot. The important thing is to remember, keep this at 90 and then drop it down, okay? Because we're using this movement to pull our right shoulder forwards, and this will give us more power, more speed into our upper elbow strike. The elbow strike itself is hitting underneath someone's chin, but we carry on just beyond that, just a fraction beyond that. What I don't want to see is people trying to push upwards this way, because we pull our shoulders all out of shape. So this hand should be level with the top of the head this way, and we have kind of a pointy V shape towards our target here. Don't pull it all the way back. So next up we have twin vertical punch and twin upset punch. I'm including these two together because they have very similar mechanisms and they are punching generally to a similar target. The difference between the two, or the main difference at least, is here. Twin vertical punch is nice and narrow. It's punching in to someone's cheekbones this way, but twin upset punch through here is much wider. The striking tool is on the shoulder line each side, and the application of this, at least the primary application, is to two different people. You can, as a secondary application, strike to one person, striking into the kidneys, but in the pattern you should not be doing this. You should be leaving it at shoulder width apart. Okay, both of them move in a circular move. So we are from here, upper elbow strike, stepping forward, step up. Make sure you've got a nice exaggerated sine wave on this one because it really can stand out. You're here and your arms are not doing much. They're just remaining where they are as your upper body and your waist comes forward, and then they deliver. Again, we are not punching inwards, so don't circle them round this way. Don't let them come behind you either, because you'll stretch your shoulders back, you'll lose tension, you'll lose force. And nice small circle from here, small circle, and straight out. Accelerate through from here. Make sure to rotate on the end as you would with any two punches. Upset punch, much the same thing. Make sure it's a nice exaggerated sine wave again. You're coming up through here. You don't want to be pulling the hands past this plane here. Elbows can come back past it fractionally, but the hands must stay in front of our hips. It's coming through, and much like our upwards palm block, if this is parallel, then these two are 10 degrees up, and you want a gap between your elbows. You're not pulling into your side this way, because again, you're crunching your shoulders in order to do so. Here. The next move is an X-fist rising block. Now, rising block essentially means it's coming upwards and it is above your head height. The blocking tool is the inner forearm, and it's going to cross over here, and it's going to end with the cross just level with the top of your head. Okay, we're going into it in a spot turn, so we come from here, spot turn, and we rotate. Now, normally with something coming straight up, you would come to flat on and you'd execute upwards, but in this one we actually don't. We're at 45 degrees and we lift and we scoop upwards. The reason why is this right hand is the one that's on the inside, that's doing the majority of the work, and for it to do what it needs to do, this rotation to 45 degrees actually enables it to work very well. This is a kind of an awkward move to do this way, but from here, because I'm rotating my body into it, you can see as I follow my shoulder and my arms coming round, it's kind of naturally following the line that we need it to. So that's why we rotate to 45 first, and then we pull it up and execute. The hands are starting to cross and starting to pull up from solar plexus height here, and they're scooping up out the way. So it's something you can choose two applications of this. Generally, it is something punching high in a straight line, so a high punch or a high high fingertip thrust or something similar. You're catching under it and pushing up. However, you can also use it to block something coming downwards, so a downwards knife hand strike or a downwards hammer fist, something like this. Primary application though, catch something high and straight and bring it up out the way. All the way through, step, spot turn, rotate to 45, lift the body weight, hands come down, and they scoop up and out the way. So later on in Joong-Gun, we get another opportunity to use our shift from L stance into walking stance, and we are here. We've just done a high back fist side strike, and we're rotating down and away into a release. So again, think about this. We have the option to come in, rotate our back foot and step straight out, but that loses the snap, the pivot that we need in order to drop this hand. So again, move this foot in a J shape. Your L stance should be shorter and less wide than a walking stance, so you should have to move your foot up and left here, this way. Don't rotate this back foot until the front foot lands here. This hand rotating down this way. You'll drop because L stance is a taller stance than walking stance is, but don't let it drop. Okay, so it is here and you're rotating. It's not forcing down. There is no forearm movement down, it's just a natural rotation around the wrist as the weight drops down. Yeah. And then deliver high punch in fast motion. Let's take a look at palm pressing block. Now obviously in the pattern this is done in slow motion at half the speed of normal motion, but let's take a look full speed. So we're stepping through here, this way. This is the primary hand, the lower hand. It is coming to here. It is blocking a front kick, but not from front on, from 45 degrees off this way. If we're trying to block something front on and we're leaving our hand rotated this way, then we're leaving our fingertips vulnerable to be pushing back. But the kick is coming into this way. If we push our palm out the way, we have this ease of rotation, ease of movement from the shoulder this way that we don't necessarily have here. This is all in the wrist. Now when we rotate it to 45, we put ourselves into reverse half facing, we're in the right position. This is the secondary hand. It is doing what is essentially a palm upwards block, but just with the accompaniment here. You don't need to worry about it too much, except to make sure that it is only 10 degrees above the parallel this way, and that the wrist is not bent. If the wrist is bent, then we're in big trouble here. You must make sure that it isn't by delivering from nice and low when you start to come through the move. This hand does not move very much, and if you start it too high, you will inevitably end up with a good old case of Egyptian hand here. So in slow motion, step through, step up, and the leg is going to come down this way. Make sure it's still a slight impact. We're not trying to slide along the floor for too long. You are allowed to drop the heel into it. With the hands, here, move them apart. Palms should be facing kind of in a square position. Step through and drop down. Here, keep the elbow out. And don't tuck it in front here. It's at 15 degrees there. Another move that we have for the first time in this pattern is angle punch. Now angle punch is not a difficult concept to grasp. We're going to do it from closed stance, but you can choose to do it from pretty much any sitting stance, parallel stance, any stance where the feet are level with each other. Here. And the target is your opposite chest line at shoulder level. So what you're doing is you're dropping in and you're punching across this way. You're punching to the side of someone's jaw, and that person is facing to 90 degrees to the way that you are facing. Here. Feet together, here, opposite chest line, shoulder height. The final move in this pattern is a U-shaped block through here. Now there are just two moves in Taekwondo that have a bend in the wrist, and this is one of them. The reason being is because you need to expose your arc hand to get into the right position. The application of this is to be grabbing the stick that someone is thrusting towards you. It's coming in a straight line. So if I leave my hands with no bend in the wrist, then it's just impacting into my fingers. I've got to try and get my thumbs so they're pointing straight on towards the camera this way. This hand is level with your forehead. This hand is not quite tucked into your waist here. There's just a small gap. If it's tucked in here, that's pretty indicative that you're not forcing it forwards, that you're in fact just putting it there. You're just bringing it back up. So the move comes through here. Make sure that it's enough of a pre-action. It is very tempting to leave your hands here and just push them straight out. That's not how we do things, okay? So palms face each other, they come across, and then the top hand is going to come from underneath, circle over the top, and then push out level with your forehead this way. One more time. I'll go from this position sideways on, step, reverse, and through. The stance is fixed stance. Okay, we do an L stance later, but it changes the length of these hands. Okay, so fixed stance, which is 1 foot width longer than an L stance, and with a weight 50-50.